Ecco Laura, adesso puoi iniziare.
Okay, good afternoon to everybody. We are here in this session, Italian Experience on Fostering the Gender Balance in ICT. And the session will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 speakers. And we will start with Lucia Pallottino. So please, Lucia, present your gender at University of Pisa from the Trigger project and so on. Go on, please.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon. I hope you can see my slides. So, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to this session. I'm glad to start this new session at the CIDRA conference. And I'm going to talk about the activities that have been done in the University of Pisa regarding the gender balance. I start from the European project named Trigger. That was an FP7 project that finished in 2017. That was mainly regarding the two aspects: the gendering contents of research and the equity in research. And the focus of the University of Pisa was to do those studies into main area. That one was engineering, and the other one was medicine. So there were many activities. I don't want to give too many details on the project, but what I was interested in mentioning today is why the gendering contents in research and the equity in research are important. So for example, a typical example in gender research is what happened in the medicine regarding the symptoms of heart attacks. We understood too late that symptoms for women were different from symptoms of men. And so for a long time, we have avoided to provide support to women that had symptoms of heart attack because we were thinking they haven't had those symptoms. So that was a big issue. So why medicine was taught for men and not for women. But this is not only a problem of medicine. We do have problems of those imbalances also in other areas. For example, the first airbags were designed for men. So the dummies they were tested on were tall, 1 meter and 80 centimeters, 80 kilos, and so on. So for men, and they were very dangerous for women. And so that's another example. And a more closer example, and also very discussed in these days, is artificial intelligence, where we can say that the possible presence of stereotypes in society can condition the AI outcomes. So for example, say if we have a look at the UNESCO studies in 2019, so last year, the study was named "I'd Blush If I Could," we can see how, and it's a long study, it's very interesting, I really suggest you to read that. They show how machines that are programmed by human beings can reproduce those stereotypes in the social system. And for example, just to give a very strong example of what they discovered is that for the voice assistants like Siri and Alexa were responding to sexist questions as "I'd blush if I could," that was Siri, and "thank you for the feedback," and that was Alexa. And that's very, that's impressive. I mean, that's very, sad. It has been changed, obviously, but they were there, okay? They were in our houses. And there are many of those examples still valid. So for example, there is also an explanation why those voice assistants are female voices and not male voices. And so the problem is also the outcome of this study was the UNESCO suggesting to make technology teams more gender equal. And to give an example from the University of Pisa, I would like to show the work that was done by Lucia Pallottino, that is a biomedical engineer that studied at the University of Palermo for laurea triennale and then came to Pisa for the master. And what she did, she developed a system, a wearable device actually, for breast self-examination, because she realized that many women do not do this self-examination because they are scared, they cannot feel the presence of nodules, and it's too scary to do that by ourselves. So she decided to design this new wearable system that is actually based on this sensorized system that can feel the presence of nodules that are in general more rigid than the tissue of the breast. And it's a non-invasive system, so and very simple to use. And that's an example on how a female in a team can, in this case, a woman in a team can provide ideas on how to improve technology for women. And so that was just, I wanted to show this because it's a very nice examples on how this is a reality also close to in topics close to our. But the problem is not just this imbalance that is present. It's not just a problem in society. It's not just a problem of women, it's a problem of society, because the impact of unbalance it's very deep in our society and especially in our economy. For example, a study in of the European community showed that in case of homogeneous teams in a company, the revenue can be improved by 40%. Or in Italy, for example, those data are discussed, but on the numbers, not on the value of the study, on the outcomes. So, for example, in Italy, we can improve our GDP by 7 points of percentage. And also they show how if we give 10 jobs to women, we create our other 15 jobs positions. So because women that work and spend money, they need to be substituted in some way in the family. So they have babysitters and so on. So they produce also other jobs. So it's not just a matter of gender balance, because we don't feel there is a gender and that's our own problem. It's really a problem of society. So with this project at the University of Pisa, those problems have been discussed with all the groups, in particular, as I mentioned before, with the engineering and the medicine departments, and all people have been tried to be I mean, those problems has been proposed and showed to all the departments and our colleagues, and to just raise the fact that there is a problem, we need to face it, and we can do that, also starting by doing research in a different way. And then another outcome of the project, one of the outcomes of the project was a database that have been built regarding the career in the University of Pisa, and comparing the presence of women and men in all the positions in the University of Pisa. And there is a website on this. You can here you have the address. You can have a look at it. It has not been updated because now we are changing the platform, and it will be updated with the new data. So it stopped at 2017. And so I give you a picture of the University of Pisa at that year. And that's the sad picture of the University of Pisa. So here you can see the PhD, male and female, researcher, old style researcher, so the position, the whole position, the new one, the RTDB position. Those are assegnisti di ricerca, and then we have associate professor and full professor. And as you can see, the number of female with respect of male decreases as the position grows in importance. And you can see on the right the same data reported on a plot, and we can see that the one that has been called the glass ceiling phenomenon. So when women are in the system, but they cannot reach higher position as much as the men. That's a typical phenomenon that has been observed in several areas. Just to give another picture, those are the percentage of male and female presence in all the boards and the committee in the university, so the academic senate, the administration board, all the vice rectors and the directors. And the situation is not that nice. And then, as I mentioned, they focused on their studies on the engineering and medicine department, where we can see two different situations. For example, in my own department, the one of Dipartimento di Ingegneria dell'Informazione, we can see on the left, women are very few at the beginning of their career, and they are few at the end of their career. So there is not just such a big difference while growing, but there is a huge difference in numbers. While in the medicine department, we can perceive the so-called leaking pipeline, where we can see, just don't have a look at this one because is a data that is not really significant because there were very few, but there are many women as a in a researcher position, while there are very few in associate professor and full professors. And that's what is called the leaking pipeline. So there is something going on here. There's not just, I mean, this is more easy to explain. We have few students, so we have few professor, female professor. That's much more complicated to explain this phenomena as normal, okay? So in the University of Pisa, after this project, we have had many activity with the Comitato Unico di Garanzia, where they face mineral aspects of the working life. And in particular, we have been involved, the University of Pisa have been involved in the so-called gender report that is now what is called the Bilancio di Genere in Italy, and is an activity that has been done at the level of the CRUI. So all the University of Italy are doing this report because, as they say, we need numbers, and numbers are clear. So what they are doing, they are collecting numbers and they are doing this report. And as you can see, many universities of Italy are working on that. It's not just a peculiarity of the University of Pisa. While the University of Pisa has also written a positive actions plan where they focus on several particular aspects they want to work on, in particular, the recognition of the impact of the leaves, non-optional leaves, and now also on the lockdown impacts in the research. And for this reason, how much we have to take care about to take into account this impact in the evaluation process of all the researchers. And they're trying to make this recognition to be officially recognized by all the departments also in their career evaluation. So we are working on that at the moment, and different departments are working differently on these aspects. At the university level, we also obtained to have a course for PhD students that is a transversal teaching activity. So it's a course for every PhD course at the university. So both for science, social science and humanity areas and STEM areas, where we talk about these problems. We also provoke students with some provocation to make them talk about these aspects. And then we also face the particular problem of each area separately. So this is, of course, this is the third year we did that, so we will improve it. And it's very interesting also to see how the younger students face this problem and react to such things. So it's very interesting also from our point of view. Regarding my own department, so Dipartimento di Ingegneria dell'Informazione, what we did, we have a roadmap of the department, and equal opportunities and gender research was one of the points of this roadmap. So we had, among others, communication, interdisciplinarity, and so on. We have this point where we decided what to do, which goal and to obtain. And in general, in this case, the goal was to try to improve the numbers of female students that was coming to the courses of the department. One of the activity we did was a workshop that we organized in November 2018. The title was L'ICT non è roba da donne, with a question marks at the end, that's important, where we invited several researchers of the ICT areas to come to Pisa and show what they are doing. So the idea was not to just discuss about imbalances in gender, but to show that there are women that are doing this job and they're successful in doing this job. So it is possible to do that. And that was a very nice workshop that had a nice impact on the schools, because we invited also the high schools in Tuscany, so that they also asked us to do another similar workshop, simpler due to lockdown. So we do that online with less speakers, but the idea was the same. And the idea is to do some kind of learning from demonstration. So to show, not just discuss about those things, but also to show that it's possible, that women can do this kind of job with a lot of satisfaction. So to conclude, I just wanted to also here give some maybe provocation, but we do absolutely lack of female role model. We do need more role model. So we all have to do more on that. We do lack in male colleagues that are interested and also sensible to the topic, because as I said before, this is not a society problem. This is not just a female problem, it's a society problem. And so there is still a lot of work to do. But the other problem is, and we were discussing this also before we started this talk, is who is going to do that? Who's going to do this work? Obviously, women are doing this work as, for example, committee, because now we have to provide female members of committee for everything, PhD, RTD researcher, professor of any kind. We have to provide female committees. That means that we are all involved in many, many committees, much more than before, just because we are female. And that's not only some kind of, in some sense, I feel that humiliating. I would like to be in a committee, I deserve it, but also it's a lot of work to do. And I know it's important that we are there because we bring our sensibility, our point of view, but it's also a lot of work. So that's also something that we would like to discuss about. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucia. We are
sorry if I'm late. I was late.
You said a lot of very, very, very interesting things. So I like to talk. And I don't know if somebody wants to ask something, just clarification or comments. Just one clarification. When you said that you were teaching something to PhD students on gender equality, this is a course that is offered to everybody, male and female?
Yes, it's open to everybody, all the PhD courses of the University of Pisa. So we let them know what are the activities that the university is going.
Is mandatory or not?
That's the problem. For some PhD courses, it's mandatory. From other PhD courses, it's not, but it recognizes 2 credits. So many students come because they also collect credits. Very few, but I mean, who comes is very interested, and it's also very, very interesting to see the discussion between them, especially with the social science and humanities people, because they have a completely different point of view on the problem. So it's very, very interesting.
Okay, thank you, Lucia.
You're welcome.
Now need to start with the next speaker. The next speaker is Elena Zattoni from University of Bologna. So please, Elena, if you want to share your screen and start your presentation.
Thank you, Laura. I hope you are seeing my presentation, my screen. Okay.
Yes.
So, gender balance at the time of smart working, risk and challenges with a focus on the University of Bologna. I will talk a lot about the measures taken at the University of Bologna and just a few considerations at the end of the talk about the effects of smart working in this unfortunate era of COVID-19. So, as I mentioned in July in July for the 5th consecutive year, the University of Bologna has released the Gender Balance Annual Report, elaborated by the Guarantee Committee for Equal Opportunities, Employee Wellbeing and Non-Discrimination at Work. The Gender Equality Annual Report is aimed at analyzing the impact of public spending in policies on women and men, and the adoption of the Gender Equality Annual Report by the public administration bodies is in line with the provision of the Department of Equal Opportunities. So it is a measure which is taken by law. The latter, this decree, which is the number 150 of the year 2009, transposes a European Parliament resolution on gender budgeting issue in 2002. The gender balance, I mentioned the gender balance annual report for the importance of this document, of course, and also because it is the font of all the data, the tables and the graphs that I have reported in this presentation, thanks to Professor Benedetta Siboni, who is the chair of the CUG committee. First of all, I would like to give you an overview of the gender composition of the University of Bologna. The total number of students, research staff, and technical and administrative staff amounts to approximately 93,000 people, with a majority of women, 51,000, compared to 42,000 men. However, the presence of women and men, when it is considered by category, shows an apparent numerical prevalence of men in research staff. And it is worth recalling that by research staff, we mean full professors, associate professors, assistant professors, fixed-term assistant professor, and research fellows. In this category, at the University of Bologna, men make up the 60% of the total, while women are more numerous in the technical and administrative staff as well as among the students. The worst thing is that the same data collected over the last 3 years show that the situation has remained substantially unchanged. And then let's go deeper into the gender composition of the research staff. This deeper analysis showed that the presence of women and men is essentially balanced at the entry levels, that is for research fellows and for assistant professors, while the presence of women decreases dramatically at the level of associate professors and at the level of full professors, where they amount to only the 27 of the total number. And these data, the behavior of this data, show a typical phenomena which is called vertical segregation. That means that the presence of women decreases as the hierarchical level increases. And the other thing which is clear is the so-called glass ceiling, which refers to the invisible barriers that prevent women from reaching top positions in their careers. And this is the first point. And from the quantitative point of view, it is interesting, especially for engineers and STEM people, to measure the glass, the effect of the glass ceiling. And an index to measure the effect of the glass ceiling is, of course, the glass ceiling index, which in the framework of the university research staff can be defined as the ratio between the percentage of women of the total women in research staff and the percentage of women at the level of full professors. And this plot shows the trend of the glass ceiling index of the University of Bologna in red compared to that derived at the national level. And this is this plot refers to the last 5 years. What we can say, what we can say is that the two graphs are quite similar. They show an improvement during the years, but the rate is quite small. And then we can consider another important aspect, and which deals with the gender distribution of research staff by the CUNY area. And not surprisingly at all, the histogram shows that there is a clear male prevalence in the area of industrial and information engineering, where the females are only the 18% of the total number. And a similar behavior, also not so evident, also emerges in all the STEM areas. That means all the areas related with science, technology, and mathematics. And also in civil engineering, but with a less marked character. So what the last diagram shows is another phenomena which affects women careers, STEM women careers, which is called technically horizontal segregation. And in particular, the horizontal segregation refers to the fact that gender is not equally distributed from one discipline to another discipline. And similar results to the one that we have, to those that we have obtained by referring to the CUN areas, can also be found in the ICT classification, if we consider the ICT classification, and this allows a comparison at the international level. And at this point, we can conclude that in the career of a woman in engineering, or more generally in the career of a woman in STEM, vertical and horizontal segregation work in synergy, and I would say in a devastating synergy. So what is the effect? The effect is the one that already mentioned the colleague, and it is called the leaky pipeline. In this graph, we have focused on the leaky pipeline in STEM disciplines. Indeed, this phenomenon is common to all female academic careers, but it exhibits some peculiar features when it is referred to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics disciplines. First of all, the first feature is that the analysis of the female academic careers limited to STEM is that the horizontal segregation impacts at the very early stages. And in particular, we have that among students at the first year and among the graduate students, women are only 1/3 of the total population. Then it happens as somehow strange fact, which deals, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. The fact is that the fact is that at the middle of the career, I mean at the stage of the assistant professors and PhD students, the percentage of women increases. And this fact is probably due to the better results in the study career of women with respect to men relatively to STEM disciplines. Then it happens that the vertical segregation intervenes at the stage of associate professor and at the stage even more in a more evident way at the stage of associate of full professors. Okay, so the point is that we have these two, let's say, segregation phenomena that prevent, in some sense, an actual gender balance. And in this consideration, the University of Bologna has actuated the so-called gender equality plan. And the gender equality plan includes many key actions, and among these key actions, it is important to stress that there is an action that is concentrated on recruitment, and another one which is concentrated on work-life balance. And in both cases, there are a list of positive actions. And the point is that not always this positive action achieves the desired positive effects. And it is in particular true, this is in particular true for what is known as flexible working, because many social studies has shown that the impact of flexible working, which is known as a positive measure, generally known as a positive measure for gender balance, actually may have different impacts, positive and negative, depending on the substrate on which it is applied. I mean, the effects can be positive or negative, depending on the family organization, depending on the social organization, depending on the country, and so on and so forth. So the elementary lesson is that not always what is intended to be a positive action turns out to be a positive one, and what is highly recommended in general is caution, attention, and so on, and self-awareness, I can say. Okay, thank you, and sorry again for this glitch.
No problem. And I don't know if you have somebody wants to add some comments or questions. Just one clarification. You say that one of the action was to act on the recruitment. Yes. In which sense? They do have a special position for women, or just
No, actually not special position for women, because actually there has been a discussion on this, and the fact that recruitment is made by concourse makes some obstacles to this kind of recruitment. But what is done is a campaign of a sensibilization of the members of the evaluation committee in order to be aware of possible prejudice and to get rid of possible prejudice. This is what can be actually done. This is what can actually be done.
Okay, Elena, thank you very much for your presentation, very interesting. And please unshare the screen so that the next speaker can share. And the next speaker will be Laura Celentano from University of Napoli, and she will present a joint work with Stefania Santini. Please, Laura, go ahead.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon, and our sincere thanks for this valuable women's sharing opportunity. Many thanks indeed to the organizer, Professor Laura Giarrè, and to the Italian women cultural community for this interesting and useful session. I'm Dr. Laura Celentano from the Automation Group of the University of Naples, Federica II. I'm really honored to be here with you for this aim today. My colleague Stefania Santini and I have summarized our experience and view about the topic of this session in a contribution whose title is Dissemination of Ideas, Women Networking, Encouraging Female Youngest Generation. 3 keys to pursue with passion and dedication. Personally, as a science journalist, as well as a female scientist in a still predominantly male scientific context, in the last few years, I've consistently and actively worked on the above-mentioned 3 basic keys. For details on my research, didactics, and dissemination activities, please see my personal links at UNINA. The dissemination of ideas, our challenge. I firmly believe that a careful and effective scientific, as well through non-conventional ways, approaching also to non-experts in our specific fields, is as much significant than the scientific process itself. In my opinion, this should be a duty of the scientific communities, shared and pursued at higher level, which can bring cultural, social, and economic growth, sometimes really unexpected. I'm a science journalist, author of about 50 popular publications on magazines and dailies, in which I've always tried to encourage the youngest generations, especially the female ones. Here are shown some titles of the above-mentioned articles. For example, the progresses of telemonitoring, telecontrol, and teleassistance, automation, innovation, and scientific research, the revolution of the smart city, zero-impact buildings, the future of the electric vehicles, technologies and laws for an efficient management on the water resources. Moreover, on June of this year, my interview, Celentano Promoting the Dissemination of Ideas, was published on the IEEE Women in Engineering magazine. I am really proud of it, as I've had the honor to internationally spread concepts and experiences that, above all in the current phase, I hope can be of spur for a stronger and more aware generation of young female leaders. Another determinant piece is surely the women networking, which absolutely does not exclude the inclusion of the available male community, from which encouragement and concrete help often come. Moreover, no is in favor of the pink quotas, humiliating instruments above all for us scientists. I'm thinking to a networking involving female students, scientists, women from engineering, industry, and politics, particularly active in the defense of female rights, scientific studies, and professions, to face with personal stories, gender reports, programs, and opportunities, or on specific topics, which can open new, interesting ways to follow. Concerning my recent activities on the women networking, In the last 2 years, I've organized or co-organized 2 main events. In December 2018, I was co-organizer of the meeting University of Naples yesterday, today, and tomorrow, with the attendance of more than 100 female and male students and about 20 authoritative engineers of national and international success and experience. Everybody graduated at the University of Naples Federico II, which have expressly came to provide their stories of life and work, creating a useful and touching opportunity for a generation comparison. Here are shown some photos of their speeches and of the convivial moments. In June 2019, in occasion of the European Control Conference in Naples, I organized with my colleague Stefania Santini a women's session, which has joined authoritative national and international science speakers, whose enthusiastic speeches have had the main aim to create a women's scientific networking opportunity, giving new perspectives about the current role of engineering, science, and industry women. The exceptional sponsors have been the IEEE Women in Engineering, the IEEE Control Systems Society, the European Control Association, and the University of Naples Federico II. The authoritative participants were Professors Bosena Pasik-Duncan, Antonella Ferrara, Jacqueline Scherfen, Elena Zattoni, Piera Levi Montaccini, Sveva Veluto, Angela Gargano, and Elena Picardi. These wonderful ladies almost all came at their own expense to bring their stories, advice, and with their healthy enthusiasm and experience have made the event interesting and useful, with a significant male participation, and also broadcasted on the Italian national television Rai 3. For the dissemination, please see the following links. Here are shown some photos of the speeches and of the disseminations of the event. Finally, encouraging female youngest generation. The direct relationship with female youngest generation is crucial in a process of cultural and social growth. It amazes and honors me the fact that in recent years, almost 80% of my graduate students are women, and that they ask me with sincere interest to be informed about national and international scientific initiatives for women, actively participate in them, and would like to be involved even more concretely. In addition, at the institution level, in my department and university, I'm trying to sensitize at any level in making concrete and transversal investments on this line, also with the support of my colleague Stefania. To my personal consideration, the principle that motivates myself in my women's scientific mission is the belief that science and women are a natural glue and an exceptional tool towards the common good. The WeS1 mission is dedicated to all the women scientists who spend their lives trying to improve the precious world in which we live and our future, working with passion, dedication, competence, and fairness. But the three above mentioned goals are surely higher, and their realization requires strong women's collaboration, support, and concrete synergy at any level. According to this consideration, the support of the international and national women scientific communities, and for example, of my colleague Stefania Santini, is precious. In this case, also because Stefania, as academic senator of Federico II, in synergy with other bodies operating in the Campania region, such as the Coordinamento Napoletano Donne nella Scienza and the Osservatorio di Genere e Scienza dell'Università di Napoli, She promotes initiatives aimed at giving voice to gender issues in research, increasing contacts and collaborations between genders within companies, sharing experiences and possible solutions to encourage work careers despite stereotypes about roles and gender skills, monitoring and analyzing gender relations in academia and research institutions, stimulating the growth of gender culture. Concerning her initiatives for students, Stefania has organized the exhibition laboratory, Il Laboratorio di Cristallo. Along the route of the exhibition, she shows through images and cartoon stories some of the main stages of a scientific career, from the choice of university studies to the possible achievement of managerial positions. Through the labyrinth, students visualize barriers, deviations, dilemmas that mark crucial moments of possible careers and interactively discuss on them. Finally, currently, Stefania is the guest editor of the special issue, Women in Electric Vehicles, for the Energies Journal, which has the main aim to illustrate the impact of women on solving the major challenges in and for the transportation industry. Many thanks indeed for this sharing opportunity and your attention.
Thank you, Laura. Also because we were late and you give us more time for the next speaker. If somebody has some question to Laura. Okay, if not, let's go back to the next speaker. The next speaker will be Mara Tanelli, that is presenting the work at Politecnico di Milano, and this work is with Rossi and Sciuto. Please, Mara, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, everybody seeing the screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So as Laura said, I will talk about what we are doing at Politecnico di Milano, but first of all, let me tell you that we have to be proud that we managed to have this session for the first time. So I hope it will become a usual session in our meeting. And also, I really wanted to say that I really appreciated the introduction of the rector of the University of Cagliari this morning, that she pointed out her interest in gender issues. So it was very nice. So I go directly in the topic because we have been talking about it for a while now. So we do have a case of missing women in ICT. I will tell you what we are doing at Politecnico di Milano. It's also very nice to see that all the major Italian universities are working hard on this topic. And then I will show you how, in our view, ICT women, so how us can help break barriers and fill the gaps. We have seen what happens in the research community, but the leaky pipeline is really acting at all levels, so also in the corporate sector. So if you see how we go from boys in blue and girls in red who study ICT related topics to people actually working in ICT, you see that from the bachelor to the corporation setting, we are indeed losing a lot of female talents along the way. So not only in the scientific community, but of course also in the general setting. If you go to the top, let's say ICT companies, so Silicon Valley companies, again, you can see that if you look at the total workforce share of women, this is quite misleading because women in tech companies don't in general do tech jobs. So if you look at the share of women doing technical jobs in these companies, then the proportion is even lower. So there's a lot to do, and as many of you said before, this is a societal concern, not only a gender issues. The cultural gap behind these numbers comes from really from the ancestral culture. So these are results from the PISA study that looked at student expectations on science career, talking to students who were doing scientific high schools. So if you look at the female responses, the major share wants to work or sees themselves working as health professionals when adults, while many fewer as science and engineering professionals, and you cannot even see the share of young girls seeing themselves as future ICT professionals, while the opposite is true for young boys. So this is very revealing of how far this cultural gap goes, and then it reflects in the working choices and in the academic choices. So at Politecnico di Milano, we have decided to, also because we have a female vice rector, we have to say, so she has really put forward these topics in the last year. So we launched with the rectoral approval this equal opportunities POP, pari opportunità politecniche, is a tool and instrument and budget availability for promoting equal opportunities in our universities. Among the many different activities we are doing, we have also written the first gender balance last year. I was part of the committee. We are now about to finish the 2020 version. So we have basically the report is of course freely accessible in our website. We have looked at how our students, faculty and administrative staff is doing as far as gender is concerned. So I'm happy now to have taken the student view, because many of you showed us the faculty view. So of course, if you concentrate on engineering, which is of course the Cinderella of the in our university, we also have of course architecture and design, which have instead parity or more than parity as far as gender is concerned. So in engineering, we have 65-25% of share between men and women. So if you see here, this is the view expanded for engineering with all the courses of study. So you can see that if you look from the least female represented to the most female represented, then you see again mechanical engineering and biomedical engineering on one side. So you really see the representation of the most basic biases that are acting also into when well-educated people are making choices. So you see the mechanical field compared to the biomedical field, which is seen the closest to the caring word. So if you see at us, if you look at us, so automation engineering, you see that we are together with the other ICT courses in the Cinderella side of the story, and we have nearly 10% of female representation among our students. So we have looked at how our female students perform during bachelor and master. You can see here in red for engineering the average graduation grades. So you see that they perform quite well, if not better than their male counterparts. Yet when they go to work, so these are data from our career service. So we look at the situation at 12 months after graduation for the Master of Science. So you see that while the percentage of people employed, again, I'm looking at engineering where the jobs are more comparable, is comparable fully between men and women. But if we look at the so-called pay gap and contract gap, then we see an unreasonable percentage, 10% of difference between permanent contracts regarding young engineers, male engineers and female engineers. And even more strange and inexplicable is the gender gap that is already present. So 12 months after graduation with equal, if not better on average, academic performance is really cannot be explained if not with a problem of gender gap. So this is interesting and sad in some sense. So we have really to work to achieve parity in this sense. So what do we do at Politecnico di Milano? So we have decided that we should put our competence to service. So we want to use our ICT and all our Politecnico competence to try to overturn gender bias in practice. So we have launched, and again, had it approved by the rector, a transdisciplinary research team that works on this topic with the involvement. You see here all the departments listed, so not only engineering competencies, but also architecture and design competencies. So I'm the coordinator of this group. So of course, anyone is welcome. You can imagine that for now, it's mostly women working on it, but still we are receiving a lot of support also from male colleagues. And so we have decided to try to do research, so to use technology for inclusion. So I just give you a snapshot of 2 ongoing projects with industrial partner with which we have contracts. So in one we are developing an automatic analysis tool of corporate documents that uses language processing features to map language features onto proxies of gender stereotypes to reveal which is the corporate culture, and language is a very revealing matter of gender disparities. The other one was carried out in collaboration with Valore-D, which I assume all of you know. It's an important association of companies. We developed with them a web platform that is currently used, which is called the Inclusion Impact Index, that performs automatic assessment of gender parity KPIs for company data. And it was proposed by Elena Bonetti, our minister, as to become a public certification that company may have to undertake in the following years to ensure that they are working towards gender parity issues. So thank you very much. This was a quick snapshot of our activities. I'm happy to answer your questions if you have it.
Very interesting, Mara. I encourage other speakers to make.
Yes, can I ask you? It's not just a question,
Sure.
It's more a comment. I'm Lucia Pallottino. Thank you for your nice presentation and very interesting activities. I think the crucial point is money. You have budget for these activities, right? I think that's very important.
Yes, because the deputy rector managed to have first an exceptional assignment of budget from the Senate, but now it has become structural. So now for the following 3 years of this rectorate, we have 250,000 euros per year. Wow. For example, we pay nurseries for PhD students and students who have female students who have children. We have research grants for women coming back from 20K for each woman coming back from maternity leave as a research grant to support her activities. So very concrete and practical support.
I think that makes a lot of difference. So you have a very good vice rector.
Yes, a woman, of course. Yeah, we hope that she paved the way for
right. Thank you.
Approval on the long in the long run.
Right.
Another comment. You were showing us the 12 months employment.
Yes.
And what puzzled me is the pay gap. How is it possible that male engineers are paid more than a female engineer?
I don't know. We performed a statistical analysis of these differences because we wanted to be very sure that we were talking on real data, but we were talking also with our industrial partners. And I mean, it cannot be anything but the projection of a future family life. So very, very gender-based, because there is no other reason to motivate such a gap 12 months after graduation.
Yeah, because I could understand after 3 years or 10 years maybe, but after 12 months is just prejudice.
And they are, I mean, thousands of samples, so it's not, it's real, it's real.
Thank you, it's interesting. Okay, other questions? Federica? No question. Okay, so
no, just open my.
Next speaker will be Federica Pascucci, yes. I think, and from University of Roma Tre, and she will talk about some gender balance in robotics. Please, Federica, share the screen.
Oops. Yes, I'm going to share. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for introducing me, Laura. And today, actually, I would like to speak about my experience in courses in primary and secondary schools. Because we'll see during the presentation, what I understand is if we want to enroll women in our courses, we need to start from the very beginning. So this is the outline of my presentation, but actually let us start. Today we are facing the fourth industrial revolution. And if as a nation will be so strong to push this industrial revolution, for sure in the next future we will need a lot of engineers. In this slide there is the export, the first 5 items of export in Italy. So they are almost all related with machines, vehicles, and let us say automation. So we will need engineer, but we do not need only technical competence, but also several, let's say, soft skills. So culturally, we are think about technical competencies as something that pertain to the male world, like soft skill is something that pertain to female world. So in the next future, we will need more women engineers. Well, this is why we have to effectively start to enroll more women students. Recently, I was studying the Ekman theory, and he said that he won the Nobel Prize to say that financial difference rely on the efficacy of early childhood education programs. So we are the very last element of the chain, and if we want that woman will effort our study, for sure we have to start in primary and secondary school. If I look at my background, for example, I have done high school, as high school I've done liceo classico. So I studied humanities in my high school. And then there is something like a cut, and I start with the hard sciences. So what's happening between, and why at the end of the teenage I discard the humanities and I move on hard sciences? Well, actually, if I see back in my childhood, I saw that I used to see only cartoon about robots. And I spent most of my teenage weekend or either working with my father, repairing appliances, car, bike, motorbike, or whatever, either at my PC. And I was really lucky because my father was working at the time in IBM. So the first PC I got was not a Commodore 64. but it was a real transportable personal computer, IBM 5155. So technical stuff were everywhere during my childhood and in my teenage. So what I understand from this is that I choose this career because I had the opportunity to build something and to play, for example, with a computer. And most of the girls, even now, do not have this opportunity. So in 2015, I came back to my high school. Actually, it is a private institution. And in this institution, we have both primary and secondary school. And we start to organize some, let's say, strange courses. These courses are basically STEM courses, but they have some peculiarity. First of all, these courses are free. Let's say free. We will say after why they are not completely free. And these courses aims at introducing STEM in a different way. So they are done physically in the school, but they are not part of the program of the school. So they students are enrolled on a voluntary base, and we require a strong commitment to complete this course. This course is about making. They have to do something. Explicitly, they have to build something. And this something that they build change every year. For example, in 2015 was drones. In 2016 was 3D printers. In 2017 was a mobile manipulator. And then a water laboratory and a rocket. And this year should be an electric car, but of course, due to the COVID, we suspended the courses and we will finish that next year. So how this course could introduce to STEM? Well, first of all, they have to build something. Most of the women and also the girls and the boys that are enrolled in these courses are not able to build something, and they are not used to broke and rebuild something. The other key idea is to having fun, because when you speak about STEAM to a teenager, STEAM subjects to a teenagers, most of the time they connect the STEAM subjects to something that it's real boring. So the key idea was the courses. During the courses, the students have to have fun. So we adopt some special type of learning science, like active learning, game, and competition. So practically, how can is organized this lesson? But it is organized as a TV show. So there is a speaker, and this speaker call on the stage the teacher that provides short lectures, 5 minutes lectures, and at the end of the lecture, the teacher gives them small problems that they have to solve in teamwork, and then they have to cooperatively build these devices. So these devices is the one that I mentioned before, the drone, the 3D printer, and so on. They have one device for each student has its own devices, So the cost of the course is the cost of the kids. And then when this device is built, they have to make some experiment and some test with this this device. Another point strange is that teachers are not allowed to give marks, but students have to give marks to the teachers. And this is, unfortunately, they are in Italian, but this is one of the feedback that that we got in these courses. Well, how can we reach them? We have a dream team of more 20 people that work actively in this course, and they are professionals by different areas. There is, of course, engineering, physicists, physicians, professors, notaries, managers, lawyers. There is a lot of legal stuff in doing courses for minors. So we meet once a week, and we prepare the let's say the TV show for the Saturday morning, and then we of course give our particular lessons. So this, for example, a screenshot for our first courses. We got 60 students, 40 from the primary and secondary school. So kids from 9 to 17 years old, pardon, 13 years old, and 20 from the high school. We divided into 2 different school groups, and we asked the parents to stay in the room during the lessons and help the kids in building the devices. So enrolling these the students, we were really careful in consider a certain number of female in the class. It was at the beginning quite hard to achieve. So this is our first course, and there is not so many girls as in the one in the other that we provide. And at the end, when we got, but we have several outcomes. The first nice outcomes was, for example, that we was in the World Guinness. Since 55 drones flight at the same time remotely piloted by the minors, it was the outcome of our first courses. The other outcome and the side effects that we have is that technology is inclusive. For the first time, moms understand that they can use a screwdriver, and they can use a hammer, they can even solder, because they are in the room and they have to help their kids. So they discover that they actually can repair some appliance in their home. And we discovered that maybe some of these moms maybe would be a perfect engineer. And then also mom and kids spent a lot of quality time working together on technology. Normally we are used to say that technology creates boundaries in the family. In this case, it creates a bond. So what I would say about this experience is that we need to, from the very beginning, challenge our students, put them enthusiasm, and ask for them to perseverance, a strong commitment,
And then let's say that if something will be happen also for serendipity.
Okay. Thank you.
Careers.
Thank you, Federica.
And I hope that I will give you a glance of what we have done.
Yes, there is a question from Lucia Pallottino and then maybe one from myself.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lucia.
Ciao, Federica. Thank you for your presentation. I think you did a lot of work. I mean, you spent a lot of time doing this, so congratulations. A question, are you able to track the educational path that those students are doing? What kind of school they choose or what kind of university they choose? Are you keeping track of that?
Yes, most of them are now at the Politecnico di Milano.
No, okay. I'm joking.
Really?
Okay,
That's
good.
true.
Wow.
And I started the courses in automation.
Nice.
Most of them, but actually we have only 3 years because we enrolled them till the age of 17.
Okay.
So now we have only 3 or 4 years of people that started this the university. So I mean, we do not have any, but the best one are on at Politecnico.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Okay, my question was almost the same, so I think we can thank Federica. And according to what was said till now, the importance of role models is very, I mean, especially at a very young age, is crucial. And I think that your work is very important in this direction, because otherwise all girls will continue saying, I will want to be a doctor. I mean, I wanted to be a doctor when I was in high school, I think, as I mean, it's a culture.
Yes, it's a culture, and then you have to broke this at the very beginning.
Okay, so thank you, Federica, and I'm introducing myself. I will be the next speaker. So let's start trying to share my this one. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I will try to be very quick because I think that most of the ideas have been already presented. I want to stress the fact that one motivation to foster gender balance is the 5th goal of the UN Sustainable Development Agenda from 2020 to 2030. The 5th goal is gender equality. You can see it in this picture, is the red 5th dot in the picture. And what is important is that empowering women and girls is very important, is crucial for a society that is sustainable. This is what the United Nations Development Agenda is saying, and this was also my main thinking, because I really think that we all know that how much ICT technology is important for a better and sustainable society. But really, a society cannot be sustainable if there is no gender equality. So the question that arises in my mind, and also in all the presenters before me, is why, despite an increasing number of STEM female students, when you look at the higher level, both in industry or for us in academia, the number is rapidly decreasing. Many of you have already presented such number, And just to go to personal motivation, in my family, so we were talking about role models, and Federica was talking about Mazinga Zeta, but also to the fact that her father is an engineer, so was an engineer, so in IBM engineer, if I understood well. And I think that the first role models that we find are in our family. And if I look at my family, my mother, her sister were working women. My grandmother, her sister were working women. The sister of my grandmother graduated in physics in the beginning of last century, and even the other generation. So the mother of my grandmother was a working woman. So I think that coming from a family of working women is easier to have to not have a bias. But the bias is mainly inside ourselves. So mainly we are afraid of success, we are afraid of fear of competition, we fear competition. And clearly, as Mara was suggesting, what is important is also the societal aids. For example, our society, our Italian society is not very good in this. It's good that at Politecnico of Milan they are helping child care and also parental leave, and also they are giving fund to researchers when they go back from maternity leave. But clearly, there are many aspects. One aspect is the societal aids. The other aspect is inside us. So we as women, we need role models. As girls, as young girls, we need role models. Okay, I had a lot of activity in gender balance. I am, as you know, in the board of Italian Control Professor since 2016. And this is why I actively participate to the Women in Control. Antonella Ferrara will talk about Women in Control in the next talk. And I want to remember you, all of you, that the next Mediterranean Conference, for the first time, will have an all-women committee with me and Maria Grazia Dotoli as general chair. And also from this year, from this August, I entered the mentoring program at the Norwegian University and TNU as adjunct professor. I will talk about this. Okay, some figures. These are numbers from the European situation. So it's not just the problem is not just Italian. This is European, and as you can see, the leaking, the pipeline leaking, and when you go in the better position, so grade A means full professor, grade B means associate professor, and so on. So even if at the beginning the number of women are even more than the number of men, then going up to the ladder of the professor, the number are decreasing. And okay, so if we go to the Italian situation, I was just taking numbers from the university where I was professor. So I took Politecnico of Turin, where I've been a researcher. Then I took University of Palermo, where I have been associate professor, and then I took Modena, where I am now full professor. And I compare this number with the Italian situation. This is taken from the Ministry of Research numbers, and is referred just to the industrial and information engineering. So all the sector that go into area, or what is called in Italian, area 9. So as you can see, the situation is always not very good. And if you look at if you look, for example, at the situation in so the situation in Modena, so it's even worsening. So I was looking this also in some other picture that was shown before. So it's not true that, so even if before, so maybe the situation was better, now with the recruitment of RD instead of researcher, the situation is worsening. So if less assistant professor female are now taken, it means that in the future, the situation will not be better, but it will be even worse. In this figure, you can see that Politecnico of Torino is the better one, but not, I mean, still the percentage is 30%. So it's better, but not so good. And the total number is always less than 25%. And consider that here you have everything. You have mechanical, you have all the area, because industrial area sometimes is even worse than information, but I mean, very similar. Okay, so I want to just a few words about this project, IDUN project. This project is a project from this Norwegian university. As Lucia was pointing out before regarding polyme, she was saying that you need money. And in fact, in Norwegian, they have money, despite us that we don't have money. And they put a lot of money to enroll 9 female adjunct professors, and I am honored to be one of them. And these adjunct professors, each one in different fields, have a group of PhD student or researcher or associate professor, and the idea is to be mentor for them, to help them in doing more research, and then have more possibility to become a professor. And they call this project IDUN because the name of the first full professor woman at NTNU was called IDUN. Okay, so I was reflecting about mentoring, and I mean, we are all professors, and so we know how to teach, we know how to work with the students, but sometimes mentoring is different than teaching, and is different than also guiding research of students. Because I was thinking about the swimming lesson paradigm. So I was thinking that when my father was teaching me how to swim, so I was floating on the water, he was under me, his hand was behind me, but he was not touching me. So the idea is that mentoring something like that, we need to be there, give trust, but let the person do his work autonomously. And at the same time, the parent, my father, was driving my car to bring me to the sea. So we need also together to set the goal and deadlines. Okay, so this is my idea of mentoring, but I just keep these, some concrete measure, and I won't just conclude because we are already late. And so what I want to conclude with something. So recently they asked me to write, this is where you can find the paper. They asked me to write a reflection, the Fondazione Ampio Raggio, about the effects of COVID to gender balance. We were not talking about this in our panel, because in our session, because this could be an entire session dedicated to this. But I mean, while I was writing this paper, I had to read a lot of articles, and what is clear is that working from home, it means for women less working, in the sense of many more tasks. So while all the men will work better at home, all the women at the end will be penalized by this smart working. And this is another effect to the fact that they are asking two women too many tasks together. Okay, so I want just to end here because I want to give the podium to the other important speakers, and I'm here for questions. If you have to answer to your question, if you have some.
I will have a question for you, if it is possible,
yes.
for you and for all the other speakers. First of all, my congratulations, Laura, and to the other speakers and Women in Control for your concrete involvements and activities about the above matters, which are surely not foregone and easy. I would like to know, in your opinion, what further actions of our women community could be considered to involve authoritative women from industry and politics near to the scientific research in concrete gender initiatives to enlarge the group and make our interaction more fruitful.
Okay, somebody wants to answer? I have answered, but I give if some colleagues wants to answer to your question.
Okay.
So the first thing I think.
Yes. My congratulations for the concrete initiatives that you have supported in these years, and for your special mentor, professor who founded professor's positions. Really and honor.
So maybe
an example.
Maybe okay, there are many steps. I think that Mara said some, and also Elena suggested some, and Lucia also in their university they are having a concrete measure. I think that maybe we can ask, wait until Antonella and Maria Elena will give their presentation. They will give concrete example for our society, both the IEEE Society and the Women in Control, also from the IEEE Society. And maybe after that, we can discuss a little bit for your question, okay? So I will give Antonella the podium.
Sure, I totally agree with you. Many thanks.
Thank you,
Please,
Laura.
Antonella, go ahead.
Thank you. I hope you can see my screen. Okay, thank you, Laura. Thank you, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I expected to find in the audience, let's say, 200 or 300 young assistant professors, female assistant professor or PhD students. I see that there are not as much or as many, but for having in mind this idea of having to introduce myself to the new generation or the young generation of our community, I prepare some slide at the beginning just to present myself, and then I will tell you something about my experience. So I believe that everybody in the audience actually knows me, but just to let me know something about my background, I got my degree in 1987, so I'm rather old now, one of the senior members of our community. I got my PhD in 1992, and I studied in Genova. I moved to Pavia in 1998 as an assistant professor, as an associate professor, and then I became full professor in 2005. I visited many places in the world. I tell you the reason why I place some pictures of my experience as a visiting scholar or a visiting professor in many institutions. Let me say that many of these experiences have been possible thanks to women, in the sense that I've been invited by many women who were in the position to offer me a grant to stay there for a month, 2 months, so the number of months I was there. I was also invited by many men, but just to give you the perception that there is the possibility of having a network of women all over the world, and also to collaborate at an international level with other women, even if we are not many. So this is the message. And well, something about my teaching. Let me move my picture a bit, if I hope that you don't see it. Well, anyway, my teaching. I teach process control and robotics. I teach advanced automation and control. I teach also a topic more relevant to, let me say, mechatronics, control of vehicle dynamics. And I've reported here some pictures of my lectures. You see, I also used to give lecture in the hospital where we have a Da Vinci robot. I'm the one with the violet sweater. And I want to mention also research, let's say, experience that I made last year. And I tell you immediately why I want to mention this. Well, we were winner of an my group, a small group of people were winner of the international contest that you see in the slide, this Epson Winner Robot Contest. And you can see that in the picture, there is this young woman who is Bianca San Giovanni, who gave a presentation today in the afternoon in the robotics third section. And Bianca was the leader. So I decided when I submitted this proposal to give, to trust, let me say, Bianca, and give her the possibility of being the leader of the group. So you see, it's a small team. We have 2 professors and one very young person who was the leader of the team. And well, she actually did very well, and I'm very proud of her achievements. I also work a lot as for research in vehicle control, vehicle dynamics control. And I mentioned this topic because in my position of principal investigator in many European projects, and I have reported here some, some images which are relevant to the last project I was involved. It ended at the end of last December, so it was a Marie Curie action. And a big project, a project with a budget of 4 million euros. So it was a very big project. And I want to show you my typical situation in the meeting, the European meeting of this project. Can you spot me? I am the only woman in a group of many men. And well, this is very normal. I've been involved in many European projects in my career as a member of the team, but very often as a principal investigator. And well, this was normal. And let me say, so this situation was normal. Myself as the only woman in the group. And well, let me say that this was in some sense challenging, but it was also very, let's say, also tiring sometimes. You know that it's not very easy to work having the perception of being considered always at the same level of the man. I mean, women very often experience this feeling. I must say that I actually managed to survive. Let me say also rather well. I was able to be appreciated. I was able to enjoy what I did in all the projects in which I was involved. But let me say that my experiences and the experiences also of the kind that you see depicted in this picture brought me to try as much as possible to promote women. And the example that I mentioned before, the fact of giving the possibility of giving the possibility to a young person like Bianca San Giovanni to be the leader of a research project was something that in some sense was part of this mission that I tried to put in practice. And well, especially for this idea that I had in mind to try to contribute to the promotion of women in the engineering, let me say, world, but also in the scientific world in which we live, we as a community of people working in automatic control, I gave my availability to become chair of the Women in Control Committee of the IEEE Control System Society, and I was chair in the time interval included between July 2013 and December 2016. And since 2013, I've been member of the advisory board of that committee. I'm still member, so I'm still trying to give a small contribution to the mission that I mentioned. I hoped actually to have many PhD students of our Italian community attending this section. And for them, I had put some pieces of information on the slide. And in particular, I mentioned the web page of the Women in Control Committee. In this web page, you can read the mission of the committee, which is that of promoting, of course, membership also referring to the Control System Society, but also to promote gathering, promote also dissemination of information which can be useful for women. Let me say new positions, awards, call for nomination for awards, and also mentoring programs, as Laura mentioned before. And well, just to give you a percentage, nowadays, let's say now in this moment, the percentage of women who are part of the Control System Society, or are official member of the Control System Society, is more or less 9%. I received this figure from Jacqueline Skerpen, who is now the chair of the Women in Control Committee, in the last days. Let me say that this percentage has grown a lot in the last years, and let me also say that I think that it is also a merit of this Women in Control Committee. Many actions have been put in place in order to see some increment in this percentage. There are many activities that are organized by the Women in Control Committee, and let me say, one of the important activities is the organization of the so-called Women in Control lunches at the American Control Conference and at the CDC. But the committee is very open to help to organize events of this type in any conference, even not the major conferences of the Control System Society. And you see in the slide, I've just put a picture. I think that many of the people, of the panelists are also in the picture. Like I see Elena, I can spot Elena, and well, there were typically many women of the Italian community. Also Laura, I believe, is there. And well, the other kind of activity that I've tried to promote, in particular during my term, let me say, as chair of the Women in Control, was the event organization. So try not to limit the activity of the committee to a get-together during the lunches. And well, during my term, I organized 2 events. The first one was an event which actually I at the time I decided to dedicate it to honor Maria Elena Walker. Elena that year was president-elect, so she was going, if I remember correctly, and I don't want to make error with the years, but let me say we had. Oh, maybe she was already president. Elena will tell us. You were already president. Is it correct, Elena? I believe it was.
In 2015, I was president, yes.
She was president. So it was really an important fact for let me say, the entire women in control group, but in particular for the Italian subgroup. And well, I thought that this event was very appropriate to celebrate Elena, but also very informative for the attendees. It was a very nice event. And many, let's say, scientists, many women who are very active in the international community as for the top research in automatic control took part and also gave presentations. So you can, I think you can recognize two of our colleagues of the American community. And the year after, in 2016 in Boston at the American Control Conference, we actually organized another kind of event in which we call an invited speaker. In that case, the speaker was Karen Panetta. She's actually an expert in motivating and promoting women, and also inspiring young women. And she gave a very nice presentation during one of our lunches. And you see there is a picture on the right, is a picture of that event. Another activity, apart from the lunches, so get together, mentoring, but another activity which was in some sense needed at the time I started my term as chair of the Women in Control, is the support of women in order to make them nominated for awards, but in particular for the IEEE fellow grade. When I became chair of the Women in Control Committee, the number of female fellows in the Control System Society was very, very low. I don't want to say something wrong, but around more or less the 3 or 4%. And you see that actually with some work we did, well, we did a very, let's say, transparent work. I don't think something which was, let's say, out of the rules. We simply went to women who had let's say, the characteristics and also the CV suitable to be eligible to become IEEE fellow. And we went to them simply saying, please try to find a nominator and try to find someone who will support you with the support letters, and try to auto-promote yourself in some sense, but also to start the process to become fellow. And well, this was done very well, not by me. I was chair at the time, and so I prefer to leave this action to other people. Linda Bushnell created a sort of list, and in this list you could read the name of the person, the woman, the year of the PhD, and some indications about publication, awards, and things like that. So just to have an idea. And we realized at that time that there were really many women entitled to be fellows. Let me say, even more entitled, at least in our opinion. Of course, it was something that we discussed in our committee meetings, but even more entitled of many men who were already fellow by many years. And so we tried to push them a bit and to activate, I mean, to start the procedure. And actually things went very well at the point that last year, so thinking of the fellow starting in 2020, so the beginning of this year, the number of women who became fellow in our society was seven women. I was one of them. And it was a nice, let me say, achievement. 7 women in 1 year becoming fellow is something very particular, let me say. And we see in the slide, I've reported some figures now. The percentage of female fellows in the control system society is around 7%. And you see we have 33 women who are fellow over the total number of CSS fellows, which is 489. And this is all about women in control. Of course, if you know some young person, I'm thinking about PhD students or assistant professors who are women and want to be involved, just let me know. I will, of course, put those women in contact with Jacqueline and with the other volunteers. I'm also not so active as I was with Women in Control, but anyway, involved in the activity of Women in Engineering. And Women in Engineering is one of the largest international professional organizations, which are devoted to promote women engineers and also scientists. Well, I put in red a sentence that I like. I took this paragraph from the website of Women in Engineering, so you can find a lot of information in that website if you are interested. There is this term, inspiring girls around the world to follow their academic interests and also to push a career in engineering. I think this is very important. And it, let me say, is at the end of the day, it is the object of our section today. So we want that especially the young women feel secure, feel, let me say, determined to go through this kind of career, which is not easy, and we have very well clear in mind this fact, but it's very nice, very full. It can be full of a nice, satisfying moment. And the Women in Control is, the Women in Engineering organization is subdivided, let me use this verb, it's not very precise, but let's say includes affinity groups. There are more than 900 affinity groups in the world. And you see there are more than 20,000 women in engineering members around the world. I've just corrected the figures or updated the figures that you see are reported in the picture that I took from the web page. But the more recent numbers, they have been given to me by the chair at the moment of the Women in Engineering organization, are those that you see reported above the picture. And there is also a channel, a TV channel, and you can find this channel in the IEEE.TV page, and it's nice. It's a nice channel, I must say. There are a lot of keynote speeches which can be just downloaded or just used in streaming, and there are nice contents, in my opinion, which can be useful for especially for the young again, but not only for them, let's say also for the more senior. And just to mention what is an affinity group is a group, local group, let me say, having the mission of coordinating events, organizing mentoring, organizing other type of service, and also the affinity groups have some budget to invite guest speakers, to organize workshops, seminars. Of course, there are many affinity groups, as I said, in the world. So if some of the young persons who are here now or can receive the information from the more senior person attending the section, if the young people want to, let's say, enter in an affinity group, this is fine if there is already an affinity group locally, but they can also decide to start an affinity group. For instance, in Pavia, in the University of Pavia, in my department.
Antonella, sorry to interrupt you, but your time is over. I think we are ready.
I'm finishing immediately. And so, as I said, one can also decide to organize an affinity group. And I think this is all because these are figures that we have already seen in other presentations. Thank you, Laura. I don't know if I have to stop share now.
Yes, because we are late. Sorry, Antonella.
Yeah, don't worry. It's fine. I have said what I wanted to say. And
okay, now our last speaker is Maria Elena. Go ahead.
Okay. So thanks, Laura, for inviting me. Thanks to all of you who survived up to now, because probably you've heard so much that now you're a little bit overwhelmed. So I will try to be a little bit concise. So is it full screen, or is you see the, well, if you probably see the thumbnails, I don't know. Yeah, okay.
It's not full screen.
Okay, you will survive with this, I think. Yeah. So what I would like to talk about is to give you a little bit of information about a committee, an IEEE, which is called Committee on Diversity and Inclusion, that works under the supervision, actually, of the governance of the Technical Activities Board. I don't want to bother you too much about the IEEE organization, which is very complicated, but essentially, Technical Activities Board is one of the main boards inside the IEEE, and it's the board in which all the presidents of the various societies and council represents essentially the research that takes place in the IEEE community. So, for instance, you will find there the president of the Control System Society, the president of the Robotics Automation Society, Circuits and Systems, System Man and Cybernetic, but also the chair of the System Council and stuff like that. So it's essentially the committee where the societies meet to discuss research and stuff like that. So it was proposed to create a committee on diversity and inclusion. And as strange as it may sound, this committee was established only in November 2017. In a previous year, there was an ad hoc committee, which means a temporary committee on diversity and inclusion was established, but the final one was established only in 2017, which means that it started actually working in 2018. I've been part first of the ad hoc and then of this committee since the very beginning, so this is my 4th year there. And essentially, the purpose of this committee is, first of all, to evaluate what are the policy, the practice, the situation in terms of tabs, so in terms of society and councils, and if they allow for a diverse and inclusive environment for all members, and if not, to suggest policies and best practices and stuff like that. So in this sense, the purpose of this committee is a little bit larger than what we were talking about, which were focusing on women, essentially. So we're talking about diversity, and diversity means a lot of things. So we talk about gender diversity, and of course, so we're talking also about women, recognizing women and having some gender balance. But we're also talking about the gender diversity, or also affiliation type of diversity. Typically, IEEE is concerned with having, let's say, a reasonable representation, not only from academia, but also from industry and from government. But there are other kinds of diversity, which are, I mean, as well important, but a little bit more difficult, I mean, both to deal with, but also to measure, like say, sexual orientation, race, or diversity in terms of physical capabilities. So the idea is, I mean, to embrace all these kind of things. So what was how did we start? What was our goal? As Lucia Pallottino earlier said, first step is we need numbers. So in order to understand, I mean, if we have a problem, which kind of problem we have and how to address it, the first thing we needed to do is to measure. To give information, to get information. And so the first accomplishment that we did is that of collecting diversity metrics. And diversity metrics, however, reveal that essentially the purpose of the committee, which is that of, I mean, dealing with diversity and inclusion in all its forms, could be a little bit hard to achieve, because there are measures that are very, very hard to get. For instance, I mean, race. First of all, most of the people do not want to declare their race, and sometimes it's not even clear what the race is. What if I'm a mix? I mean, I'm the daughter of two parents of different races. So essentially, diversity focused pretty much on the first forms of diversity dimension. So gender, geography, and affiliation. So we try to collect a number of statistics regarding IEEE in general, and then specific the various society and council, just to understand how things work. But also, and this is, I think, one of the parts that I found more interesting, what are the best practices in society and councils, but also outside. So practices that try to ensure, for instance, gender representation, gender balance, or to promote, for instance, diversity inside, let's say, as we will see later, editorial boards, inside the governance of the societies, inside the leadership of the conferences, and so on. And of course, the first person who were interviewed were persons inside the societies and council of IEEE, but also a lot of people had also connections with the external scientific entities, and they brought their experience from those entities. So after collecting all this information, what this committee did was to publish the metrics and best practices, and the goal is that of coming out with an annual report. And I will show you in a moment of the annual report that was completed at the end of 2019, and also to have an online diversity dashboard that can be consulted. There's also an IEEE tab website for diversity and inclusion, where you can find freely access all this information. Other things that were done was to propose IEEE diversity statement that were approved by the board of directors, and it was asked to all the society and council to approve this statement that essentially says that all the societies and the councils within IEEE try to ensure that all gender, all races, all geographic origins are at least I don't want to say balance, because probably it's more a task, like a goal, rather than an immediate effect that one can obtain, but is as a target that of ensuring this diversity and inclusion. And then there was a number of activities to promote diversity and inclusion. So essentially, this is this is just a picture, and it is, as I mentioned, it is accessible through the web page that I will show you later. This is the first diversity report at IEEE level that was produced last year in 2019. This is a brief recap of the diversity data collection. The interesting thing is that all the societies and council have completed at least an online survey where they were asked to provide information about, as you see here, about the governance. So what is essentially in let's say we're referring to the structure of the control system society with which I'm familiar of, as for instance, the EXCOM or the board of governors. What is diversity in terms of awards, which means both nominees and awardees. What is the diversity in terms of composition of the editorial boards, or in terms of leadership inside conferences. And the result of this survey brought to this diversity report. And of course, there's a new one under preparation that will be finished at the end of 2020. And the procedure is always the same. Essentially, there's some brainstorming about what are the most appropriate questions to pose. Then a formal request to societies and councils, data collected, data analysis, and then, this data are become available. For instance, this is, this can be accessed by clicking on this link. This is live diversity dashboards. I don't think it's very easy to see, but I can focus on it, on this. Sorry, I move it. Let me do undo. Okay, you're never. Okay, let's do this. So if you see, there are, for instance, the first column is about the gender. So you see Society Award nominees by gender, Society Award winners by gender. So we say that the women are not doing that well. So editor-in-chief by gender. In the second column, actually there are statistics about regions. So typically IEEE divides in regions. Region 1 to 6 represent areas of the United States. So region 7 is Canada, region 8 is Europe and Northern Africa, and so on. And also information about Society Award nominees and winners, or editor-in-chief, in this case, referring to the affiliation. So academia, government, and industry. Finally, sorry, let me go back to a normal size. This is the best practices. I think this is one of the, I mean, the data, the statistics are always very interesting, but also best practices are a very nice feature, because you have a lot of great ideas about how to ensure diversity and how to, I mean, ensure that you involve, that you include people, that you encourage them to be part. And I mean, just for the sake of brevity, I will just close by saying that this is the link that brings you to the Committee on Diversity and Inclusion of the TAB webpage, where you can find all the resources I mentioned before. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Maria Elena. We are very late, I mean, but it's from 8:30 this morning that we are on, and we are all tired, but I think that it was very interesting, and I just want to let you know, everybody, that the session has been broadcasted on YouTube, and then after a few days it will put on YouTube also for the future. So if you want to link the YouTube channel to your page or so on, you will be very encouraged to do this. And I think that there was the question of Laura to everybody. I think that both Maria Elena and Antonella showed some practical answer to your questions. I don't know if somebody else wants to add some other comments. So just to summarize all the speakers. So you have to start by working on high school or elementary school or mid school. So I remember Rosanna, that our old Women in Control leader, she is always organizing something for young students, because she thinks that to increase the number of STEM professor and researcher, you need to start from the very beginning, so along the line of Federica. But what else can be done when people are already PhD student and they want to continue their career? Help each other. So this is very important, and help each other means mentoring, means giving advice, means creating a network, like Antonella was saying, because creating a network and sharing this network with others is important, to have opportunity in Europe, in project, to be funded, or to have idea together, do research together. I mean, there are many ways to increase this. I don't know if you have other suggestions. I think that we cover a lot of different strategy, a lot of different issues, and I really I'm really glad that I really want to thank all the speakers for their ideas, and I hope that this will be something that will continue in the next CIDRA events. I mean, I am sure, I mean, I remember when we were looking for panelists, many other speakers said, okay, I will talk next year. So there will be a lot of speakers also next year. And I don't know, I want just I quit, and if somebody else wants to add something, please go ahead. Lucia, want to say something?
No, maybe next time it would be nice to have the possibility to have some exchanges. I mean, some opinion exchange or comments or discussion.
Yes.
That would be nice.
Yes.
I mean, we are not in person, so we cannot share the coffee breaks or the dinner. Because that would be nice to do that in person next year.
Also, I mean, they put us at the very end, so otherwise there will be time after to continue our discussion. But maybe we can, we listen to each other, and I think we should continue this discussion privately. I don't know, somebody else? Elena, do you want to add something? Elena Zattoni? Your voice? Your microphone is mute.
The technology today is not working for me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So what I would like to add is a warm thank you to you, first of all, for having the idea of organizing this session at CIDRA. As I reply to your invitation, I wanted to stress that this is the first time that such a session is organized at CIDRA, and I think that this is very important. And also, I hope, as you hope, and I think all of us hope, that this initiative goes ahead in the forthcoming conferences, also at the Italian level. Okay, so a big and warm thank you to Laura and all the colleagues.
So Laura, just to add that we invite them all to the panel that we are trying to organize for the Mediterranean conferences on the same topic. So let's hope to meet in person there on the seaside and have the panel.
Hopefully in June, next June.
Yes.
Not sure yet, because maybe we will have also a mixed conference. Not sure that we'll be in presence in June. Anyway, I mean, I know that, for example, ECC will be
hybrid, no?
Hybrid, and maybe also MED will be hybrid. So, but who knows? I hope so.
Yeah.
I would like to thank again, and I hope next year that in the speaker there will be some men.
Yes, sure.
Because
I wanted to say the same.
Speak about gender balance, generally it was the man, women that talk with themselves. And it's, I mean, I think that this is not good for the community.
There were many men in the audience anyway.
There were, yes.
There were, but there are still.
Next time as a speaker.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you everybody for the organization also from my side.
But okay, so I think that we can close now because it's 7:30. It's 11 hours that we are online today. Okay, so goodbye to everybody, and I hope there will be other occasion like the MED panel session.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again. Bye.